usability is one thing, like has been already mentioned, which is not only about how much access you have, it's about how helpful or how usable it is. So usability perspective coming into play here. So if we look at captions or subtitles, as you call it here in Europe, it's a transmission between speech to text, and that's fine. But there's a lot of information that is non-speech information, so NSI, so someone's thud when they fall, or the phone ringing, or someone knocking on the door. So the trick is how to show that information. And it's kind of an abstract problem. It's very hard to feel and to understand this non-speech information if you're not fluent in the majority written language. So we've thought about different ways, and we've looked at previous research that has looked at different types of substitutions. For example, when you look at the emotional impact of music and how captions can support that. The research has shown that we've represented sometimes non-speech information through haptic or tactile or vibrating information, so people can feel the information rather than read it on the screen with the subtitles. I'm not sure about what's happening in other countries, if the research has gone in the same direction, but that's what I'll be presenting to you this morning. So the standard way of presenting this type of information is just having the description in brackets, as you saw on the last slide. So this is an example of describing and identifying what's happening here, and you can see this, it says object falls. And then another way to describe this would be thud, or you can describe the action. There's not one standard way of describing and identifying something that happens, such as in the example here. Oftentimes you see the description as well as the spoken information on the same at the same time, as you see here. Equally important challenge is often reading captions or subtitles often happen slower than a listener is listening to the speech. So our reading rate is slower than our listening rate. And some information is then deleted, such as or certain fillers. So we're back to the same problem of too much information through text if we add every single sound that is made. And with audio description, we have the same problem of where to put the extra information that needs to be there. And if it's not in the text stream, i.e. it's in a haptic form, then it's a little bit easier for us to go back and forth, and that's the approach that we used here.
1 second.
It's very, very hard to show information in less than 1 second, especially if that information is of an abstract nature.
So, what we did was
So our approach was to look at this research question of how to split the text and vibratory information, and we developed a new system involving a vibrating watch.
you have a program
So we have a program that analyzes the subtitles, and if there is some NSI or non-speech information, there's a library of haptic signals that sends information to the watch so that the correct vibration is felt by the user. This is the flow chart of how this framework is set up. So there's basically an app. So there's an open Chrome app, so such as YouTube, which would use YouTube, a YouTube movie. And then when it sees brackets, which is how non-speech information is represented most of the time in the subtitles, then a system, which is represented here, would then send that information to the watch via Bluetooth. So it's a nice piece of research implementation. So we did a study with 20 different subjects and 2 different videos. What we did is we had them sit and watch an introductory video to get used to the concept of this technology. We had half of the participants looking at regular subtitles, and then half of them experiencing the subtitles with the vibrating watch. And some of that group saw only caption first, and then the watch was added, and then others had the watch first, and then the watch was removed. We then gave them a series of Likert questions after they watched the movie and had the experience of using the watch. And questions, some sample questions are: the tactile captions or captions were easy to use. I like the captions or the tactile captions. How helpful were they? I'm confident in using this in class, and I would recommend this to other deaf and hard of hearing students. In general, the response was very positive, but because this was new technology, it wasn't fully usable, and we got a mixed response based on the fact that it was a first-time experience. So, for example, it wasn't really easy to use. I guess there wasn't a lot of non-speech information. But the responses that we got were pretty uniform. What they really liked was the concept. They liked the idea of feeling connected with the captions somehow, and it was an important difference. They really supported the haptic experience along with the visual information on the screen. So it definitely helped them a lot to know that the phone was ringing 2 or 3 times before the person picked it up, for example. It helped them to establish the environment within the film and to know more about the plot. Well, what's interesting is that they didn't know if they could recommend it to other deaf and hard of hearing users, and I think that might have to do with the fact that, and I'll explain this a little bit more later, that they need more experience, and they need more of a clear connection between the subtitles and the haptic signal. They definitely felt very comfortable and confident in using the new technology. We also asked them questions about what they thought about the vibrating watch. And again, the impression was on the ability to experience this directly to feel the sound, and that was the most positive aspect of the feedback we got.
This was the question of
The question of how often non-speech information shows up in lectures especially needs to be made more clear. So maybe there's some information represented by the watch when a slide changes, for example. An unfavorable response was connected to the fact that the haptic information by the watch was a little bit distracting sometimes. If the vibration feels like what they were hearing or were seeing on the screen, then it wasn't distracting. But if it wasn't timed correctly, then it could be seen as a distraction. We weren't able to control the shape and the power and the intensity of the vibrations. We were only able to control the timing, and that's just to do with the technological limitations of the watch itself. And so in the future, we would like to work with a customizable watch that will give an exact copy of the sound wave that feeds the signal, which then creates the vibration. So even with limits in timing, there is still a lot of benefits in using this this type of additional technology. So with that in mind, we would like to set things up with additional characteristics. So looking at time and frequency modulations, as well as the power of the vibration, that would allow a better connection with the environmental sound that's happening. Some sounds are more complex than others, and some are pretty straightforward translations into vibrations. And so we would have to look into that a little bit more. And look at the type of combinations we would need to change sounds into haptic patterns. Okay, thank you very much.
This one? All right. Okay, we're trying to manage some mic issues here. Okay. Yeah. So you and I will share. He can have his own. All right. Any questions about that? This is a very new area.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. So, can you maybe say something about the patterns you used and how did you arrive to the set of patterns?
So we set them up. They're hard-coded patterns. So the watch has technical limitations, as I said. So you can start a vibration when non-speech information starts and stops. Okay, so you have to time it exactly with the information in the subtitles. There's one type of information basically that will say, okay, start vibrating, right? So if a phone ringing, when the phone starts ringing, the vibration starts. When the phone stops ringing, the vibration stops. That's what people feel when they're watching it. So it's a rather beginner level bit of coding. The next step is going to be to add frequency level, so some type of power analogs that can analyze the intensity of the frequency, copy that, and translate it into the haptic signal itself.
but that become
And
automatic.
that can become an automatic
That's
piece of coding
copy the whole
that
thing.
copies the whole thing, produces it repeatedly through the vibration.
He's going to have to use our own chair stuff. That's exactly what it does.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Sorry, there's another question?
I'm interested to know why you used the watch instead of the smartphone, because this morning we heard that smartphones are very well spread in households.
Today, devices are showing up in very different ways. So we use watches now as a tool for vibration. It feels more direct. Okay, so you have the option of holding onto your phone, and that's going to feel a little bit different than something that's kind of on your wrist. Right, so that's why we decided to use the watch.
For example,
For example, if you're holding a phone, you can feel it, but it feels less natural than something that you're wearing, and is, as a result, a more direct experience of the vibration.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we'll need to move on, and there'll be lots of opportunity for discussion at lunch. Thank you. Good.